Now, for Southeast Asia, remember yesterday we had the ASEAN Mentorship for Entrepreneurship or AMEN conference? Well, this morning, for our first speaker, we have someone who is with a company that is making significant strides around the world, and his company was born in Southeast Asia. We have a very, very special speaker who was invited as the very, very first representative to join the World Economic Forum's community of chief economists who were tasked to reimagine the global economic system after this COVID-19 pandemic. So please, without further ado, allow me to welcome our first special guest for this morning, Group Chief Economist of the SEA Group, Dr. Santitarn Sathirathai. Good morning, Santi.
Good morning, Ms. Jovin, and good morning, everyone watching the show. And of course, I would like to say happy anniversary, year anniversary to Konik for sure as well.
Thank you very much, Santi. Santi, I hope you don't mind. I will be speaking in English and Tagalog, but don't worry, I'm not going to sell you. But I just want our viewers to know about what SEA Group here in the Philippines is. Mga kababayan, kilala po natin ang kumpanya ni Santi bilang Shopee Philippines. So, you know, Santi, Shopee is so well known here in the Philippines. And when we say, when we show your logo, people will wonder, what has the C got to do with Shopee? So it's good that you're here. And they're seeing a face, actually, with what everybody has been pressing on their mobile phones and devices for the last year or so. So welcome. This is your first time to join us in Gonigosha, correct?
Yes, that's right. It's very exciting.
Right. So I know that you've been in global forums where you have shared and amplified the interests of Southeast Asia, and we thank you for that. You've seen a lot of discussions and participated in a lot of discussions with thought leaders. Maybe you can share with our viewers today what these global trends, especially in digitalization, which is your company's sector, and then maybe try and relate it to what is most relevant to us here in Southeast Asia.
Absolutely, Ms. Jovin. So we have been collaborating with the World Economic Forum, trying to understand the key trends that affect the future of the business in Southeast Asia. And this year, we collaborated with them to really try to understand what has been the impact of COVID-19 on youth in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines. And I think one of the key themes that really stood out, we surveyed over about 12,000 actually youth people aged 16 to 35 years old in the Philippines. And we found out very strong trends of digitalization, very much echo what PA Joey has said. And I think the word that comes to mind is called it digital by default. What that means is that, I think in the past, if you invite me to speak at this event, and I said, can I do it online? You will ask me, why do we need to be online? But today is complete opposite. If when you ask me to speak, everyone assumed it will be online. If I say, can I go there to the studio? You'll probably be asking me, what's wrong with you? Why do you want to come here? So everything's become digital by default. And it's really borne out by the data that we see. In the Philippines, we see very strong leap in digital transformation. We see that 88% of people we surveyed in the Philippines saying that they have increased usage of digital tools, digital application platforms, various things. The most popular are social media, video streaming, e-commerce buying, online education, and virtual meetings, which we are using right now. And I think even more interestingly, in somewhat, 44% of the people we surveyed say that they actually learn about new apps that they never used before as well. So for example, if we never really used Zoom before in the past, now we actually learn how to use it. If we haven't really used e-payments in the past, now we learn how to use it. So all this is transforming the way that we consume, the way we pay, the way we do business, the way we learn. And last but not least, we also asked one question in the survey, in the study that we did. whether this change will likely be a permanent change or it's just a temporary thing that you do during the pandemic. And the answer is overwhelming, because about 2/3 of people said that of this kind of popular application, they think the change would be permanent. They think that this would completely transform and create a new normal with the way they buy things, the way they learn, the way they meet people, and the way they work. So I think this is going to be a transformative change that affects Philippines and Southeast Asia, not just during this pandemic, but forever.
Wow, those are impressive numbers that you were able to get from your survey. 88% is a big different, is a totally different number from what we were looking at, 2 years ago? When, well, especially in the Philippines, our central bank, which is one of our most cooperative regulatory agencies in pushing for digitalization, lucky, just like different central banks in ASEAN, that they are engendering digitalization. They've made adjustments to their targets. Like there were targets on achieving digitalization or transformation by 2025. Now they're bringing it up to 2023 or even 2022. So that's an affirmation of what you just said. Thank you for that. So to our viewers, wag po kayong mag-alala. Ibig sabihin, ang inyong mga ginagawa ngayon, dahil nakakasanayan na natin at nakikita natin yung efficiencies nitong digitalization, ang sinasabi ng Shopee sa kanilang survey, tuloy-tuloy na po yan kahit tapos na itong pandemic. So that's wonderful to hear. And people need to be assured that this current normal that they have will proceed with more predictability as time goes. Is that correct, Santi? So, okay, now let's focus on things that are happening here in Southeast Asia and in Shopee. There are so many platforms like you. You need not talk about just Shopee, but all very helpful platforms in our area. What are we, the entrepreneurs and consumers, supposed to expect from platforms like yours, so that we can pursue our enterprise development?
Absolutely. So I think what we have learned during this pandemic is that digital services like e-commerce, like Shopee, has become essential service overnight. It's become something you almost have to have in order to continue the business, continue the learning, continue the consumption. So what we have learned from that, I think it's also our job, our risk. Digital service inclusive. Make sure that everyone have access to this, and that's where we've been really having a lot of efforts and resources in. Especially, we try to at Sea, we have this motto called connecting the dots. So we believe in connecting the millions of customers to the sellers, and also vice versa, from connecting millions of SMEs, local entrepreneurs, to market opportunities to millions of customers which are all over the Philippines. So we have done a few things along this line. For example, back in May, we collaborated with DTI, Department of Trade, to do a virtual food fair where we help local food sellers being featured on the microsite so that everybody can know about their products, the promotions, and we help push that to nationwide customers. We are doing something similar again with the DTI for the local sellers, which is going to start beginning of next year. But what we also learned from that is that it's not easy for everyone to transition from offline businesses to online businesses. So what's become really important, and I think Pia Joy also mentioned about this, is the need to upskill and reskill to really help improve the digital skills for entrepreneurs. So we have a lot of programs in that buckets that can really help you go from lack of familiarity to online to actually learn how to use it properly. We have Shopee University, which is workshops localized to really help you from very basic taking photos, how to label your products, how to price them, to more advanced on how do you participate in these, big campaigns like 11/11, 12/12, which is coming up. We also work with Go Negocio, the Kabatin Mentomi program, where we have representative in Shopee do a one-on-one training, really incubate the entrepreneurs so that they can become successful online entrepreneurs. Because it's going online is not just about changing one channel offline to online. It's the whole change in the process. It requires a lot of mentality change, process change to be successful. So we want to make sure that all the entrepreneurs are successful, MSME are connected to bigger markets. So that's been an area where we really focusing on connecting the dots and empowering people using reskilling and upskilling.
That's great. Well, you have one connecting the dot that I actually see in my email every so often. I have a micro enterprise of handmade quilted bags, which I registered in Shopee. And your people keep reminding me to keep visiting my site and keep updating it. I think you know what? That is so apt, because when small enterprises, most especially, are so busy, the entrepreneurs, they tend to forget to update their site. It's not like putting goods on a shelf. You can do it on the fly. Here, like you said, you need to keep helping them to change their mindset so that it's a different way of doing things. Just not too difficult, It's actually easy to just upload your photos, right? So your Shopee University, I would say, is one very important resource that the KMME, the Kapatid Mentorship mentees, have been using a lot. So thank you for that. Are there more, can you cite what you call this, success stories or merchants, not necessarily in the Philippines, but in ASEAN, that have used your platforms and have really made it big, from micro to, say, a smaller size and to a medium-sized enterprise? Do you have case studies like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly, Mr. Bin, many of them happened during the pandemic. So it's really true that sometimes, crisis also bring in opportunities and bring in sort of the resilience in us to really adapt to the changing situation. So we have several, I think, interesting examples. I think one of which, actually from Philippines itself, is a woman who actually lost her job back a few years ago, and then just started by experimenting, start selling women fashion on Shopee. And, of course, taking all the courses that we provided them. And it started small, only maybe have about 20 orders per day at the beginning. But then, she really has grown to today have over 2,000 daily orders. So a huge leap and become very successful. Now she has hired locals to give back to society, expanding employment, creating job opportunities, and also have their own sewing factory now as well. So move upstream to production. So that's very successful stories. And we have seen many stories like this. And interestingly, many of them, most of them, in fact, are women. So these opportunities and e-commerce platform as a way to kind of experiment their business ideas, maybe start even casually at first, but over time it has become very successful business and sometimes become the main earners of the household. So I think there's a lot of these inspiring stories that e-commerce not only allow you to connect to different people in the markets, but also allow you to experiment, because the cost of starting business in e-commerce is much lower than the traditional brick and mortar.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, thank you. I mean, good that you mentioned the demographic of women. Maybe you can cite some other demographic that are fairly successful in using Shopee. But I just something triggered in what you said. You were listening to what Joey was talking about earlier. Here's our brand building guru in the country, and anybody who goes through Go Negosyo benefits, and the luckiest ones who get to have a one-on-one session with him are able to get nuggets of wisdom from him to really transform their business. So I think your platform is also able to help your merchants with brand building. Isn't that right? Is that something that they can get help with or benefit with by using Shopee?
Absolutely. I think we definitely help a lot of brand building, especially exposure that we mentioned before. But I think there's another interesting and important features about I think Filipinos consumers as well as Southeast Asian consumers, which is that consumers in this region are very social centric and they like entertainment. So sometimes when you shopping experience is not just about buying goods and getting out and then that's done, right? It's a entertainment experience, it's a social experience, and one way, very effective way to build brands is to build trust, and the way to build trust is through mechanisms like live streaming, which has become hugely popular, especially during the pandemic. And I think many inspiring examples have managed to build their brands by doing live streaming. It's essentially like you're having your own talk shows. So it's not only selling products, but you are like an entertainer, and people remember you, people know you, and you can also describe about your products. How do you source the products? What kind of effort, what kind of love you put in the products? All these things give a human touch to these products, and I think this has become a very, very powerful ways to build brands. So I think I'll definitely encourage everyone to explore live streaming, and of course in our training program courses we also have education content where you can learn how to be successful in doing this live streaming as a way to connect to millions of customers as well.
Okay, so truly this new way of exposing your goods and services is multimedia, and at least you're also giving the tools. You're making available the tools to our entrepreneurs and especially the merchants that go to your platform to use it. How to optimize the use this tools. Okay, so mga viewers po natin, mga negosyante, yan po no, narinig ninyo kay Santi, napakarami po palang features ng Shopee. Hindi lang yung nagbebenta ka. Matututo ka din, they will teach you how to use what they have. They will also help you make most efficient use of the platform so that it's not just a basic buying and selling as we do in a store. So marami po silang tinuturo sa atin. So when you see messages from Shopee, please take advantage of what they're saying there. Basahin po natin. Let's read it because they do not give trivial information. What I like about Shopee also is that when they give information, it's concise and direct to the point, not too much bells and whistles, and that saves up a lot of time for the entrepreneur. Santi, we have not much time. We have about 5 minutes left. And as an economist, one of the things that people usually expect is like a clairvoyant, is for you to share with us what the world will expect, what Southeast Asia and what the Philippines will expect in the near term and in the medium term. Can we ask you for that? Is that okay?
Yes, of course. I'm not sure I would advise you look to economists for a future podcast all the time, but yes, I can give you definitely the views that I have. I think in general we are. I think this year, looking back, it has clearly been a very challenging time for everyone, in the Philippines, but also in the world. But we do think that they're start to see light at the end of the tunnel. Again, to quote PA Joey, we think that the world is moving in a better direction. We already begin the healing process. And next year, we're going to start to see, actually from here on, we're already going to see the economy on a recovery path. That's going to be led by exports. First and foremost, I think around the world, you start to see the economy start picking up already. And we export global growth improving, export improving, remittance flow is going to be better. And I think all of that is going to start feeding into improvement in consumption in Philippines, which is really the main driver of the Filipinos economy. About 70% of the economy is driven by consumption. So I think all of that's going to happen. So next year, you should see much stronger growth, a strong rebound from this very challenging year ahead. And we do think that digitalization will play a really important role, both in terms of accelerating that process by allowing the SMEs and consumers to really participate more effectively in this economic recovery, and also important in the sense of making it more inclusive. So we want to see that this economic growth do not just benefit a few groups, but actually you can all the entrepreneurs, all the micro entrepreneurs can really be part of this too, part of the supply chain, part of the market opportunities. So I think this is why I'm very passionate about at Shopee and trying to make sure that everyone can participate and really help drive this recovery next year. So we see a light at the end of the tunnel now, and we just have to hold on tight and really prepare ourselves and try to make use of that opportunity.
Okay, that's good to hear, because a lot of people lost their jobs during the last 10 months, and many's only hope is through e-commerce platforms like yours, where they're looking for new opportunities. So that's good. We appreciate you giving us an optimistic outlook of the world. So before we let you go, we'd love to have you in a Zoom photo to commemorate this event. Is that's all right? Okay, so we'll have 2 photos. If we can please put on your biggest smile. There you have it. Si Santi po yan. Santi is here, our Dr. Santitarn. Okay, good. And now for our second photo, please let's do a double thumbs up. All right, so that's it. Mga kababayan, ayan po si Dr. Santitarn Sathirathai for an informative session brought to you by SEA Group and Shopee Philippines. Thank you very much, Santi.
Thank you.